Well, hey everybody, long time no see. That was a hell of a race, if we're gonna call it that. I got a lot of pieces and parts. Didn't get to watch the entire thing. I followed it through the scoring most of the way through. So I got some thoughts on the option tire and things like that, but gonna have to talk about that finish because boy, that is a controversial one if I've ever seen one. And I've got a real hot take for that, so we'll get into that. But for those who are wondering, website and eBay store will reopen August 24th is when that will reopen. That is when I'm scheduled to get my stuff. All of my diecast stuff is packed up in a trailer, been packed up for a month now. And so when it gets down to Kansas City where I'm at, that is when the store will reopen. I will relist everything and I'm going to be able to start selling again and getting diecast moving again, doing reviews. Probably not until September because I got to get the studio set up for it. So once I'm all set up, then I'm going to get right back into the videos. So don't you worry, they're coming back. Don't delay too, or don't worry too much. But let's talk about Richmond. So Richmond, I mean, let's where do we start? Let's start with the tire, the option tire. We have prime and option. I will say, pleasantly surprised. That works out well. I don't think the option tire fell off enough for my taste. I think it held on too well. You know, Daniel Suarez used the option tire, got all the way out front, and then just stayed there. Like, it just didn't fall off. Even Michael McDowell drove all the way up to 10th and then stayed there. He lost one spot after that and went back a little bit. But other than that, it was just like the tire, there wasn't enough early speed followed by fall off. There wasn't enough later fall off on that tire. That being said, even with the two sets of tires, the short track package on this car is still a problem. It just is. Look, these cars have no power. They just don't. You can see they would occasionally struggle coming out of the corner for some rear grip, but there's so much tire contact and so little power, and the tires are so hard. I mean, even the prime or the option tires lasted like 80 laps. I want the primary tires to last 80 laps and the other ones to last 40 or 30 or somewhere around there. I want them to be really fast, but for half the time, because that makes it a real gamble. Like the primes were the better tire. If everybody had prime tires, they would have just used those all night. But there was really no gain for that. So, you know, I don't know. It's tough to look at that and say that was the best we can do. The standard for NASCAR racing on short tracks has to be higher because it's always been higher, and they've got to actually put the effort in. They can't just keep beating around the bush. Look, the car needs power. It's a race car. Put some power in the freaking race car. It's that simple. It needs power. It needs a number of things, but the fact is, you need more of the off-throttle cornering time, and higher speeds entering the corner will help with that a little. So the tire, I applaud the move. I applaud the effort. Like, that's a good direction. Do I want 2-3 years from now for that to be the story of NASCAR, is that every track has option tires and that's how they maneuver the racing because it's gotten bad? No, the option tire is not the solution. It's a patch. It's a good patch. It'll patch. It'll work. It can work for a year or two. But let's find an actual solution to this short track package and not just stop it. The tires are fine. Let's leave it there. Like, it's got to go further. This isn't enough. So moving past that, we go into Austin Dillon. 32nd in points entering last night. 32nd in points. That might be the furthest back anyone's ever been to win and get in the playoffs like this. Ever. And look, for the record, I'll go on the hot take right now. Austin Dillon deserved to win that race. 100%. I am not mad at Austin Dillon. I am not mad at what he did, per se. We'll get into the nitty-gritty, but at the end of the day, Austin Dillon drove probably his most complete Cup race to date. That was maybe the most impressive race of Austin Dillon's career in the Cup Series, and he deserved to win that race. He absolutely did. And so I'm not upset about the winner of that race. I'm not. I really don't have an issue with it, with the winner specifically. Now, we have to get into how he won. So, first things first, with 2 to go, Ricky Stenhouse and the 41 decided to crash each other. I think it was more on the 47, but it's just a perfect example of, like, what are we doing? Like, 2 to go, and you're just going to literally plow through the guy in front of you. Like, what is this crap? Honestly. So, yeah, frustrating. The whole race would have been no controversy. Austin Dillon's still the winner, and the race just ends, and we're all happy. We're all like, well, it's a weird race, but hey, hats off to Austin Dillon. Win from 32nd to get in the playoffs, I guess that's what it is. You know, and that should have been the story. But instead, all week now, Austin Dillon is going to be surrounded by controversy because Ricky Stenhouse couldn't hold the wheel, or Ryan Preece. I don't want to assess blame. I don't know exactly who's at fault. It sure as hell looked like Ricky missed the bottom. But instead, we're going to be talking about Austin Dillon and Joey Logano penalties and all these crap. And that if Ricky doesn't do that, none of that happens. So part 1 of my grievances is filed against Ricky Stenhouse and maybe Ryan Preece. Like I said, I think my opinion, it was Stenhouse, but I don't know enough about racing to think that the 41 may have chopped him a little bit. But again, it's 2 to go. Why are you crashing for 15th? It's so dumb. It's 1 point, and you wrecked your cars for it. Why? So then there's that. Then we go to overtime. Let's start at point 1 of overtime. I hate the restart zone. I've always kind of hated the restart zone for some reasons, and I really am not a fan of double file restarts with 10 to go because the leader has almost a slight level of a disadvantage. But here's the thing. That's the rules. That's what we're dealing with. I would love to see the first place car get the whole front lane to himself, second, third in the second row, third, fourth in the, you know, so second, third, fourth, fifth is how it works. But I want the leader to have the whole front lane to himself. And the reason I want that to be the case is because the leader deserves an advantage. You are the leader of the race. You deserve an advantage. And I'm sorry, with these cars having to push each other to get to the corner, I don't think it's enough of an advantage. It's not enough of an advantage to just get the lane choice and the fire first. If you're the leader, you deserve the full first lane. And then the second part is you deserve to come up to speed through the final set of corners. I don't think, I mean, we noticed at road courses when they would dive bomb into corners, the dive bombs went away when they moved the restart zone back. And so I think the same thing can very much be said with Richmond if you just let them accelerate through the corners. So they're pace, 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 hit the middle of 3 and 4, accelerate up off the corner. They're at a much higher speed entering turn one, but by doing that accelerate out of the corner, you don't have the cars so packed together as they all pile down into the corner. So those are just 2 things I want to see helped because I don't want the leader to be not a disadvantage, but I want the leader to have an advantage that they earned going into those final restarts and things. I think the leader has earned the right for that much of an advantage. You know, he literally led lap 400 of a 400 lap race. He deserves to have at least that much of an advantage on a restart. It's just my opinion. So let's get to the real controversy. Final lap. Joey Logano on the restart gets around him on the outside. Austin didn't do a great job in the restart zone. Joey Logano laid back, rolled up on him, and then beat him to the line and beat him to turn 1. So here's my problem with that. He beat him to the line. It's legal, but it's kind of cheap, and I don't like it because, again, it allows you to roll up on the guy with momentum as you enter the restart zone and then pass him as they get to the finish. Like, I don't like that. I don't think guys should be able to lay back, roll past the leader, and be the leader in turn 1 that they didn't earn. Joey Logano did not earn the lead. And so I think Joey Logano, like, again, this is not Joey Logano specific, this is just in general. The second place car does not deserve to roll past the leader at any point on the front stretch, period. I don't like the idea that the leader can be third, fourth, or even second by the time they get to turn 1. He is the leader. He deserves to have at least that advantage. So anyway, that's a minor thing. But Joey Logano clears, gets by him. Austin Dillon follows him through 3 and 4. Not sure why. After he got clear, like, don't follow anyone ever. It's bad. Your arrow is bad. Like, everything's just bad. Don't do that. But going down the backstretch, 3 car lengths back on the final lap, as he's leading, as Joey Logano leads Austin Dillon, and I saw it coming a mile away, but Austin Dillon sails it in there from 4 car lengths back, puts the bumper to the 22, 22 gets loose and spins, 3 has to check up, Denny Hamlin dives top to bottom inside, goes for the lead, and then Austin Dillon right hooks the 11 into the wall, and retakes the lead and wins the race at the line. And my opinion of the race was, in real time, that was really ugly. But I'm not mad at Austin Dillon. I hate what happened. I don't hate who did it. Because, in general, I do not like the fact that somebody could be leading on lap 399 like that, and two guys crash each other and completely change the outcome of the race. I hate overtime. I've said it for a while now. I don't like overtime. I think overtime is a bad thing. What overtime has consistently done in multiple races is when you watch a race from start to finish and the race plays out with strategies and different options and things that people do throughout the race, and then all of a sudden at the very end, snap of your fingers, the whole running order shuffles at the very end of the race. That doesn't tell the story of the race. It doesn't. You know, the story of the race for Christopher Bell would have been, he had the good car, he dominated, he falls back from a pit penalty that he caused and finishes 6th. I don't even know where he finished, honestly, I have no idea. But the point is, we miss that because everything shuffles on a green-white checker, so the whole running order is off. We have no idea. So I don't like that for that exact reason. I don't like the fact that the running order shuffles and changes the total outcome of the race with overtime. And I mean, I can go to a number of races that I think would have had better results had it just not gone into overtime. Indy, a perfect example. That race doesn't get blown off into overtime. Brad Keselowski wins on maybe the gutsiest fuel strategy of all time. Maybe the gutsiest fuel strategy of all time without that green-white checker. So I would have loved that because I don't know if he would have made it under green. It would have been really, really close. It would have been him or Blaney. But again, I don't. Instead, because of the overtime, he runs out of gas. Larson slides up and gets a free spot and restarts better. Like, I think that race was playing out to be truly a classic. And instead, we got kind of everybody like, ugh, really? That's how that ended? What was really a fairly good race most of the way through, or at least decent, turned into just sort of mediocre because we had a cheap finish. And look, there's a reason that there are races like Kansas that aren't remembered as fondly as, say, Atlanta or Chicagoland. Kansas was the closest finish in NASCAR history, but it came on a green-white checker. So it feels, I don't want to say inauthentic, but it doesn't feel the same level of authenticity. Where Chicago was 40 laps of buildup for that moment when Larson pulled the slider, or almost pulled the slider. But that was 40 laps of buildup to that moment. And that's what a finish has. A finish has buildup. And with the green-white checkers, there is no buildup. It's literally just boom, 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 done. There's no buildup. There's no anticipation. And so I know everybody likes them right away because it's like, oh, what a cheap little thrill. But at the end of the day, that anticipation builds good core memory finishes. Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch, that wasn't a green-white checker. That was lap after lap after lap of build-up heading towards the finish. And that's the thing. It's like you need that build-up of that finish getting closer to the wire. He's getting closer. The anticipation building. That is part of a finish. It's also part of a great championship battle. So I don't like overtime. I don't. I want it gone. I really don't like it. If that race ends at 2 to go with that caution, so be it. Nobody would have been that disappointed. Truly, nobody would have been that disappointed if the race ended on that caution. And if they would have been, I got a bridge to sell it because there's not much that would have happened had that thing just stayed green. So overtime is a problem because, again, it basically takes people who have earned a spot towards the end of a race to finish well and puts them in a very vulnerable position to lose all of it, and it makes people do desperate and silly things. Next part. I don't like overtime. I don't like the playoffs. The playoffs also encourages this stuff. Austin Dillon's 32nd in points. You think he cares about a points penalty? You think he cares about finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or wrecking? No. He was literally checkers or wreckers last night. And that is what the playoffs has brought us. Ross Chastain rode the fence at Martinsville. And, I mean, I at the time said the same thing. That seems cheap. I remember it. I've got a memory to it. But it's not one of my all-time favorite moments in NASCAR history. That a guy basically rode the wall, found a little exploit. It's fun. It's a fun memory, but it's not something that I'm going to put down and go, that's what makes Ross Chastain a great driver. because that didn't take driving skill. That just took a lot of guts. But when I see something spectacular on the racetrack from driving, that's the stuff I remember. When I see a guy save a car that was way out of line, when I see a guy force it in there 3 wide in the middle and make it stick, or all these other different things, that's what I respect and what I remember more fondly. So here's my opinion. Joey Logano obviously not happy, calls him a hack, says the bump and run's one thing, that's different. I don't give a damn, Joey. I'm sorry. I saw you punt Matt Kenseth. I've seen you punt Martin Truex. I've seen Joey Logano punt a ton of people. He punted William Byron. Like, Joey Logano has no problem driving through the car in front of him and putting them up in the fence and ending their day. He's done it before. He's gonna do it again. I don't care. Sorry, Joey. Cry me a river. Like, if of anybody in the field that has literally no right to talk about that type of a move, it's Joey Logano. Matt Kenseth is one example. He didn't like that he got blocked, so he punted him. Martin Truex Jr. raced him clean and fair, punts him in the corner. And then William Byron, literally, he gets mad about what? Some slight rubbing on a restart, and then he punts him into the wall with 2 to go. Like, sorry, all 3 of those are perfect examples of Joey Logano. He would have done the exact same thing. No questions asked. So, yeah, sorry, don't care, Joey. Not a care in the world. Denny Hamlin, he's got a bigger gripe. Okay, now here's the thing: Denny Hamlin also walled Larson, doesn't seem to care. So, again, I hate to say it, it couldn't have happened to 2 better drivers if it's going to happen. I'll be honest. I like Denny, I really do, as a driver and everything. But he's had what's the word? He has a couple coming his way. He's definitely used some guys up in the last couple years and hasn't really had a ton of payback for that. So, at the end of the day, Denny definitely deserved it less than Joey, but at the end of the day, I'm going to say, couldn't have happened to 2 better guys. That was literally the perfect, if you're going to punt one and spin the other, Austin Dillon literally picked the perfect 2 to do it too. So, that's my opinion on that. And again, like I said, I'm not a fan of Joey, never have been, but I am a fan of Denny. I do like him. I want him to win a championship. This year is the year I would hope he wins a championship. But at the same time, he has used some guys up over the last 2 years, and so a little karma came back and bit him. Doesn't bother me that much. Now, if it happened a second and third time, I'd be a little more bothered. But just once, nah, sorry, man. You've done it to a couple other guys. I'm not going to be too mad. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna use the old saying: hate the game, not the player. I hate the game. I don't like the game. The players are trying to play it, and that would be the drivers. They're trying to race in these rules, but the game is bad. It's got bad rules, bad officiating. NASCAR ain't going to do squat. They need to, but realistically, the best thing for NASCAR at this point is going to be NASCAR turns around and stops and says, okay, we need to realign this sport. We are moving in a bad direction. We need to go back. We need to take away overtime. I know people are going to be so mad that overtime's taken away at first, but what it's going to do is bring back the build-up to a finish. And that finish may end slightly early. It might. But what it will do also is the anticipation builds to those moments. My most memorable Daytona 500 was literally when Dale Earnhardt Jr. passed Tony Stewart in 2005. I think it was with 3 or 4 to go. Goes around the outside, crowd goes nuts, you know, everyone's cheering, the whole thing, like, that moment was so big, and the caution came out for my guy, Casey Kane, and they went and re-racked him and did a green-white checker. And personally, I just would have rather the race ended there. And it's not because the green-white checker was bad, they had a bunch of crashes, it was a normal green-white checker, nothing crazy. But that would have been build up, finish. And even if the finish isn't what I wanted, or it's not exactly in line with what I wanted to see, the build-up led to the finish every time. I want the build-up to always lead to the finish because that's what people remember. I remember the 2023 Daytona 500. I was in the stands for that race. And when Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon went to the outside of the Roush cars with about 3 to go and went to the lead, the whole grandstand stood up where I was. My entire section, everyone got on their feet. That was a huge memory of everyone building of like, the race is on, they're going for the lead. And when the caution came out, I remember going, ah, crap. And knowing it was going to be crash after crash after crash after crash, because I hate that type of racing. Ricky Stenhouse won that race. I don't know. I literally, it barely sticks in my memory because I saw them come by and go quad up in turn 2. That's the finish. The finish happened way down there with a crash. Like, I would much rather the memory of the race been as they all came around to take the yellow flag or the white and yellow flag and then come around for the checker. But the race always should end on the checker like that. That's what I want to see. So, hot take. Overtime sucks. Playoffs suck. I'm not blaming Austin Dillon. Hate the game, not the player. All those types of things. But let me know your thoughts, because I'm sure this is definitely not going to be everyone's take. I'm sure I'm not going to be in the same boat as everyone else. But that's why the comments are here. So put in the comments below, what are your thoughts on last night's Richmond race, specifically the finish, and all the details of that. And stay tuned. We might have a diecast review this week if I can. Got a new shipment that's sitting here waiting at to get and put in the trailer. I may be able to pop one out and take a review of it. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Stick with me for another month here, and we'll be back with some more diecast reviews.